some damage. Notice this. This is a very important, this is a crucial statement right here. This might be the most important thing. This guy right here, I'm just being honest with you. This guy right here may have stumbled on the key point, the biggest thing you could do. Do you remember when we used to have to use Captain America and Silver Surfer in game modes they weren't designed for, build a team around them and make it work? We complained about it at the time, but more and more we're beginning to see that was indeed the golden age of Marvel Strike Force. The game is a far cry from it now, but the wonderful thing is this community who loves this game is active, and they've put forth a lot of solutions to show us how we can get back to that golden age again. Hey, who's that guy? That's me. I recognize that guy. Now, what we want to do is really talk about that video that we made, the identity crisis, how we believe Scopely has lost its way. I just want to point over here on the right-hand side. You see that little graph? People are viewing the video. People are viewing the video. And for me, right, that blue line, I don't know if you can see that blue line versus that gray line. For me, that means this is a breakout video. People are watching it. They're passing around. What if Mobile Gamer or Valley Flying made a video like this? How big of reach could it get? People were asked to comment and bring out solutions, and they did. So let's highlight some of the community solutions that are here and see if this is something that could be implemented into the game. Scopely, are you listening? There's excellent information here. Let's break it down. Let's start off with Mr. Steven. Mr. Steven is an avid commenter. He consumes a lot of Marvel Strike Force comment. He comments very, very well, very eloquent writer, and he always has good ideas and solutions. Let's go ahead and see what he had to say. He said regarding the Age of Apocalypse, the funniest part about it was the complaint that we had at that time was we had to overbuild characters we didn't want, and that we're building our rosters the same way. That was the complaint, right? That was some of the negative feedback that we got in the Age of Apocalypse. But now what is happening? We have modifications in Dark Dimensions and Sagas that make us take specific characters that we don't want. They're requiring every team for something. So even now today, we still in many ways have the same roster, right? He's identifying a problem, but no, there's a lot more meat here on the bone. He's not just complaining. He's identifying the problem. And so now we can highlight a solution. What did he have to say? He said, people liked the Horseman Scourges. They were challenging. Some players, even with the largest rosters, could not do the highest difficulties on some of them. And that is absolutely a fact. The difficulty of some of those scourges went well beyond what people were able to do. Now, they just didn't know, right? At the time, they were trying to just err on the side of safety. They didn't know at the time, but I believe that Scopely has stumbled onto something that they can use, something that's important. Make it so there's some things that people simply are not able to do. People that wanted to try to build up their characters, they got that 7-star horseman faster. More casual players could slow roll it. We're not going to get that character as big. It's going to take us longer. But as he says here, Scopely had actually discovered the magic formula to make content for everyone. And I agree with that. Now, again, I'd like to hear Scopely side of things. Maybe some of us we could talk. I understand maybe there's got to be that balancing act. You got to be able to make your money. We want to have fun in the process. And so is this something that could work today? Right? This is what I'm wondering. Is this something that could indeed work today? It encourages people to build their rosters faster on a front end, in this case, to get legendary characters. And if those legendary characters are strong, if they're going to come in and change the game, people are going to go for it. At this time, too, I think, if I remember correctly, we really started to notice the difference. It seemed like Scopely really was able to start dialing in those numbers. We noticed the difference. If you had a 3-star character and then you put red stars on that, you felt the difference in power between those two characters. Same thing, right? You go up just a couple star levels, a 5-star version, a 7-star version. Those all hit different. So if you could capture that again, right? That again gives hype for the community when people are playing with that 3-star and they get hit by that 5-star and they say, oh, that's what it's supposed to be like, and so on and so forth. I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good metric. Let's go back and see what Mr. Steven had to say. He said it got better than that. The Age of Apocalypse is the only time Scopely ever got ages right. He says that's the only one that was right. Why? At the end of the year, players that were engaged for that time, for that full year, they got a baby apocalypse, while spenders were able to get a much stronger version, the big boy apocalypse. So this is where that term kind of came from. I don't know if some of us remember that. This is where it really got to be dialed in. You would get a version, you didn't have the red stars. Let's say you just had the 5 yellows or something like that, and the character was decent. And we knew that he was only half built. We knew there was a lot more that had to go. The spenders, they got a bigger version, and they got the bigger version quicker. So us free-to-play guys got a baby version. The big boys got a big version, and the power difference was obviously notable. We were encouraged as more free-to-play players to invest time, energy, and some of us started putting a little bit of money in to make sure we could get more power on that apocalypse. Obviously, your spenders, you rewarded them by giving them the absolute strongest character in the game. He says it was the most, it was an absolutely single most brilliant thing Scopely had ever done, even if it was because they had to buff Apocalypse after the fact. And I want to address that because that is a huge point. We have scared, and there's certain people, and we can call out some of the other content creators on this, who just love to look for blood in the water, and that's fine. There's going to be some of that. But we have to allow some flexibility to live service game. They put the character together. You say, well, you had a year to think about it. They don't have a year in reality to think about it. You don't know what teams necessarily are coming. When you come up with the idea, if it's a year away, they don't have the entirety of the team roster planned out for a year. They work in chunks of, like, let's say 6-ish months ahead. So literally there's 6 months that they don't know what the character is going to be like yet. So they have to kind of build and craft as they go, make adjustments. And when he comes out, it might not be great. We can give them that feedback, which they did, and they changed the character. And Apocalypse is one of the best characters in the game, even right now. The problem with every other age is that the player can be engaged for that year. When the age is over, there's no grand prize. They typically have to wait 3 months, many players longer than that, right? Free-to-play guys like me, we're talking closer to 6 months to get payoff for the work they did for that year. The spender should be rewarded at the end of the stage, but other players should not be left out in the cold. Like we didn't just do all that same thing for a year, right? I can feel that. I feel what he's saying. That's been one of the biggest problems with the Age of Annihilus. We're in chapter 4. We're nearing the end of the age. This should be the most exciting time of the year, but it's the most boring. Why? As usual, only a small number of people will end up unlocking Annihilus. Most of us won't get them until well into the Age of Fear, which we are eagerly anticipating. The Galactic Council team is completely meaningless and doesn't function without Annihilus. So he's alluding to here is that just the lack of content, right? There's not a whole lot. We're in that portion of the game where we should be pushing back and forth against Annihilus. He should be showing us why he's the baddest dude out there. We should be getting beaten, for lack of a better word, and trying to rally together and come and push back at the 0 hour. That's how comic book sagas go, right? But we don't see anything. We don't see anything. So we scroll down here to look at the comment here from Zastin. Okay, Zastin 3. Let me know if I'm saying it right. Now, Zastin, he is a creator, premieres most of the time on Twitch, right? Good creator. Go check him out. He streams on Twitch. But notice what he said recently. He said he enjoyed the video, but he had people asking why I wasn't streaming. This is Zastin. People were asking Zastin, why were you streaming last week? And then he said in response, well, no one is streaming. Now, why aren't people streaming Marvel Strike Force? Well, he said he had to share with them. There was no content. Can you imagine it? There's no content. There's people asking, hey, man, I want to see what you're doing on the game. And he's saying, there's nothing for me to do in the game. He says it was an off day for him in between War and Crucible. There wasn't any content to talk about in the game. There wasn't any gameplay from the developers. There wasn't any statements. There wasn't any pictures. There wasn't anything teasing what's going on. nothing was going on. Nothing was happening. He said he thinks that that's right, fit the video we were just talking about so well. People, look, notice this. He said people wanted to consume Strikeforce content, but it was an empty week. So people went on to do other things, right? So people are hungry for content. They want to play the game, right? They want to play the game. So, Scope, you just have to give us something to do, something that's engaging. Brother Boylan chimes in. Can't believe Boylan watched the video. Thank you, brother. Thank you, Brother Boylan. Boylan chiming in. Look at that subscriber mark, man. 23. Wow. Props to that guy. Now, he said he appreciates some of the things in the video, and he's salty here. He's getting a little salty. He says, you're assuming that Scopely cares about creating content players will enjoy, that players will like, and that players would play more. He says he thinks, right, it appears that they don't care about us. Why? Why would he say that? He said, well, we've got an entire month of chapter 4 with 0 content. This is baffling and insane. Right? And I understand what he's saying here. Right? He's a little salty. He's saying, hey, man. He says they don't care about him. I don't think that is true, but he says they don't care. He's giving the evidence. He's saying because there's nothing to do at the climactic portion of the game. We're supposed to be facing off against the baddest dude that we've played against in the history of Marvel Strike Force, and nothing's going on. It's crickets. We're not fighting him. He's not fighting us. Right? It's very, very interesting. We got Shane Sanders. We got Shane Sanders weighing in. He said, my favorite activities in the game are Dark Dimensions. Why? Why? Well, he says, look, we got a dimension for Blue Marvel, but nobody can do it because of the purple ISO 5. It's impossible to earn. I get that. I do. Right? He says he's been sitting on the node for 2 months, 0 progress. I feel you, bro. And I understand that some of the activity needs to be gated. Okay? But he's saying, all right, on top of that, notice this other thing. He says the last Dark Dimension, even though it was different, was for Xavier. The problem was you had to have a certain team per node, and you had to 3-star it. You could not mix and match. There was no theory crafting. You couldn't even brute force it over multiple days of play, right? If you made a mistake before, at least in Dark Dimension, like, man, I didn't bring the right characters. You could at least say, well, I got to just keep going. And every day you're just chipping away because you know at some point you're going to get through. With Xavier, it's not like that. If you made a mistake and you didn't bring the right characters, you have to 3-star it. So you have to go back and power up the right characters in order to do that, right? Like you said, Liberty was necessary, still is. There's no substitutes. And I get the fact that we got to sell those teams, Scopely. I get it. I get the fact that we got to sell those teams. But is there a way we can kind of have a little give and take, right? He says the best Dark Dimensions were the nodes that just say city. You pick 5, any city, and brute force it day by day by day. If you're having problems, well, you got to bring up more characters so you can keep reloading, right? You keep reloading. Well, maybe I can hit it twice a day. Maybe I got 2 city teams. It's not what I wanted, but I can keep loading up. And that's what we did right on the free-to-play side. The spenders would get through super quick. It's going to take us longer. And just by playing the game at some point, you're going to just start leaning into what that requirement is. Right? At some point, that requirement, let's say it was Gear Tier 20, just becomes standard. And you just start having Gear Tier 20 characters anyway. You're like, oh, I got 2-3 more characters I can throw at this thing. And you do, right? The problem is the best characters for each node are the newest ones. You get punished for leveling up your favorites if they're not new. You can still level the ones you want. It'll take longer. He said, I'm okay with that. I'll take the longer path if it means I can use what I want. Hey, it's all right. I like that. Now, this is interesting. This is interesting. He says, I would love to see the next Dark Dimension move away from City and Cosmic. Maybe it just says X-Men, Sinister Six, Avengers, Guardians, Defenders, New Warriors. And that would mean moving tags around, but you could make a dream X-Men team. Theory crafted. Look at influences that are influencers like Dorky Dad, strategists like Desir, who are bringing up strategies, combinations that we didn't think of. Maybe there's some hidden mechanics that makes characters you might not think of as being super useful. Bring back that exploration, trial and error, and fun. Now, let's just break this down for a minute. I see what he's saying here, and I understand that maybe we cannot always do this in a dark dimension. But what if there are miniature dark dimensions, right? Things that we could do over the course of a month. Maybe it's meant to take a week or two, some type of difficult content, and you implement some of these things. Again, it would need to be for rewards. That would encourage people to build their rosters and let people kind of think about combinations that they could put together to get through the content. I think that that is a really, really good idea. It's a brilliant idea. The community is asking for this. So lean into it, Scope. You got people that are asking for it. These individuals here, they're not complaining. They're not being crybabies. They're not whining. They're saying, hey, this is the problem. And they're offering good solutions that could be used and monetized. Let's just talk about how we could do that and how that could be done. Notice here on here. Excellent point. Excellent point. He said, to me, what has kept the game alive for so long is the social aspect. And he's not wrong, right? We're in the information age. We're past the information age. We got AI going now. But social media is a thing. People talk to each other all the time, electronically and whatnot. And if you have friends that you do this same hobby in real life, you talk about it. That's what you want. When people are talking about your product, that's a good thing. When they're putting out content on social media about strategizing how to deal with the content, that's a good thing, right? Having to work and succeed with others like a team is fantastic. This is just part of human growth and development. This is what people want. They want camaraderie. We get it in different ways, right? If you go to the gym, playing a little basketball with people, you're playing some board games, right? So I got friends that are in both of those circles. Go exercise with a couple of them, and some of that same group, we sit down, we play board games. The same people. It's like camaraderie. That's what you want. Lean into that. He's saying the same thing, Scopely. He's saying, Scopely, you got to lean into it in an engaging way. We've been dumbing it down, right? There's a personal gameplay. Most players are lucky just to get enough tunes to get somewhat into the challenging content, but there's a lot of barriers to entry, right? He's saying, did I pay a lot of money on the new team just to run through the content? Should I max older characters for a challenge, or do I mix and match? This is what he's contemplating in his mind. Do I sabotage my account, build old stuff just to make the game harder? Think about that. He likes the game. He wants the strategy aspect. He's saying, should I not build the new team? Should I just build some stuff that I just made up in the past just for the sake of using the strategy of the game? Right? Resources are an issue. Getting to this content gets further and further away from what we're trying to do. Right? Rerunning content day in, day out is boring. It feels like a chore. It's not fun. Now he has this idea. This is a suggestion he has. Make content for things like attaining sidekicks for certain characters. Make a bunch of them. They can be super challenging, like mini epic quests that force you to figure it out. Right? It's a good idea. Me personally, if I'm reacting to this, like, I don't know how they would do the sidekick thing, but this part here, make stuff maybe centered around certain characters, make a bunch of it, make it challenging, that forces you to figure it out, right? You lean into the story of the game. So right now in Marvel Comics, right, we know the X-Men are getting hyped up because they're coming into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So Marvel's trying to really pump up X-Men in the comics. So right now, there's two different storylines that focus squarely on Cyclops because they teased them in the trailer for Doomsday, right? So there's two stories. It's just all about what makes Cyclops the man. He had a storyline where he's being there's a enemy group called 3K, right? They're kind of like the modern day young Brotherhood of Evil Mutants, and they got some really hard hitters over there, some strong dudes. And Cyclops beat the dog stew out of most of them. And his point that he was making is, hey, it's not just about your power. You could be the strongest guy out there. It's not just about that. You got to have a team. You got to know your enemy. You got to study. You got to train. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to teach you this lesson, young man. Interesting storyline. They took it again recently where there's a, I don't want to give away the story, but, well, story's already given away. There was an age of revelation, right? So Apocalypse taps Doug Ramsey Cypher to be the next his heir. So then it's Revelation, and in that there's an alternate timeline where he basically wins. So bad guys win. Cyclops is over there, right? They do a Terminator thing. They pull his brain to the future. They lose. He comes back to his timeline. He's like, we got to stop this dude right now. And he walks into a room with a bunch of other X-Men, and dog walks him, trying to get to Revelation. His own guys, because he studied, he trained. So the story just leading up to that is interesting. And you can introduce other characters along the way. Could we do that in Marvel Strike Force? Just little spotlights, just little showcases, like the old challenges, like way back with Elektra, just introducing the character, but maybe we just have a little story, just a little flash, boom. And right, it's super challenging. You make up some story. You have a lore that you can lean into from Marvel Strike Force. You can make it be a memory, a flashback that a person's having from their perspective about something that was going on. And you just build some teams, have us go for some loot. Maybe you restrict it slightly. Mystic, hero, tech, something like that. I don't know. And you let people lean into it. And you can embed little nuggets, right? Keep the storyline going. Maybe you embed little nuggets, little hints that people maybe didn't grab. You can tell it's alluding to something. So people kind of keep it in mind. And then, it comes to fruition later. Or, it was referring to this character. Or that's actually when Annihilus was starting his adventure. So many ways that you could lean into that. It's an interesting point. So let's go up with Kendrick right here at the top. Short and sweet, very important, very impactful. Loosening the tags on abilities in synergy, right? The auto-ness, he says, the auto-ness of the game. The lack of strategy could be mitigated with more characters that fit in the teams instead of just having to build the team for Node 4. Nothing else works because no other characters have the tag, so no reason to use any other characters. You have a catalog here, right? Okay, he acknowledges alongside having bad stats, this probably requires an attempted overall balance of the characters. Not sure that Scopely would do that. And I understand what he's saying, right? You're not necessarily, it's not always the most effective team because you got characters that are old, and that's fine. But what if you used it to your advantage, Scopely? Some of what we were just talking about, making this content, there's some people that have some better information on that. But what if you used it to your advantage and made content with some of these different characters, opened up the tags a little bit so we could go after it and see if we're able to chew through the content? Big Positive Geek here. He enjoyed the video. He says that it feels like it's a shopping simulator. He's talking about Marvel Strike Force. It's a shopping simulator. He hits it right on the head. He says Scopely creates the lock and sells you the key, right? And I get that some of that's necessary. That's part of the process. But if we got to take that medicine, if we got to swallow that bitter pill, right? What do you do when you got to give this medicine to your kid? You pop the top on this thing, you're like, ooh, this is going to taste bad. This is going to taste bad. The little 5-year-old Jimmy's looking at you like, what do? You gotta sugar it up somehow. Put it in some applesauce, give him some juice. It's a bitter pill, brother. You got to do something that makes it fun, sweeten the deal for us to enjoy it. Once again, Big Positive Geek, he hits on the same thing. Dark dimensions are great Early ones were amazing. Why? Because there's a choice of what you can use. Right? Now you compare that with Professor X. You got to use this team. It's usually the new team to get through the node. There's no theory crafting. There's no brain use. Same with the maxed out event. They're not saying you to build a team, but at the same time, they're telling you to build a team. Same with raids. The times where the skill nodes, for example, in the Doom raid, you had to theory craft your way to get through the nodes. Huge point right there. Tech Wing. Ever heard of Tech Wing? Anybody know it? Google it. Tech Wing, Marvel Strike Force. There's just teams that the community made up to get through content. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Scopely, we might need that back. Can't believe I'm saying this. Scopely, we might need that back. The next iteration of the raids, maybe you just put 3 extra nodes out there at the end. Don't tell us who the team is and let us figure it out. People are going to be mad. Change it, though. Maybe we can still get that 100%. Put them at the end. So if we go to where we are now, we still get that 100%. And now these are 3 extra competitive nodes for raid season rewards that if we put some decent rewards in there, put some dog rewards in there, people will try to figure it out. They will. They'll build stuff just to do it. I know it. I guarantee it. Right? He understands. He says he understands you got to guide and encourage people because people don't always know. You want to, right? You don't want people to waste money or time. So for people that don't know, you have to guide them to a degree, but the fun would be back if you worked on that Q&A. Don't make the mistakes that cause community outrage, which I get. People would find, they would find that more people would spend on the game. And that's true. You know it's true because it happened in the past. He said he had a community member that sent something from a spender in their alliance who is stopping because they don't feel the content in the game and the quality isn't deserving of them spending the money. That's been forgotten by the money makers on the MSO side. So we know that the people who are creating the content are doing their best. A lot of them are gamers. They came from other games. If they were to tell you some of their resume, their pedigree, you'd be like, oh, okay, that cat's a gamer. But for some reason, in between that creative phase and the implementation where the money making phase gets in, stuff gets messed up. He says, if I'm spending on my hobby, and that's what it is, it's a hobby, it's because I'm enjoying myself. And I want whoever's making the game, the product, to know I appreciate them. So I spend some of that money, some of that disposable income. He says this is just how he sees it. But there's others who he figures seems it similarly. And I agree with that. I'm not a golfer. I don't know a whole lot about golf. I got an old bag of golf clubs in my garage. And every once in a while, my buddies are like, dude, let's go. Let's go golf. I don't know how, but I go to the club with them. The golf club, whatever. What do you call that? Where do people go? I go to the place where you play golf and I spend to get in and I'm not a member. So sometimes it costs a little bit of money. They play. They're going to cost them money too. They go on a more regular basis. But because I'm hanging out with my friends and having fun, I go. One of my buddies, he liked it so much, he started taking golf lessons. We're not golfers. He's paying for lessons. And then his wife gets involved. She's paying for lessons. Because they like the hobby. All of a sudden, they're putting money on the table. It's just that simple. Snow Grizzle. Man, I miss the days of the Ultimates raid. He just responded here. Let me. I appreciate you, brother. Man, I miss the days of the Ultimates raid. Build up a team of your favorite heroes and villains. Destroy the nodes. That's when I truly love the game. I'm telling you, there's something here, Scopely. There's gold here. We complained about it at the time, but we didn't know. Right? If we could only go back to the golden age of Marvel Strike Force. This is what the game's about. You got to bring it back. Hearthhale 87. I love the negative zone he sped, especially that first chapter in chapter 1. He said he liked it at reset. He could do it in under an hour, watching other content creators run through, looking for a combination of characters that he personally had for the different nodes. Everybody's not always going to have the same characters up to speed. You might watch a guy do something, you're like, well, my guys aren't that strong, so I can't necessarily do that. But he made it work, right? He said sometimes he messed up. He had to wait till the next day to finish. No big deal. It was a great incentive to gear your characters, and you even have the option to spend cores if you want to refresh. Very clear return on investment. He knows a lot of people hated it, but they changed their mind due to current circumstances. People complaining about having to do daily content sounds like a luxury these days. Ain't that something? People are saying, boy, I wish that I had something to grind. I wish that I had to log in and do this thing every day. Boy, I tell you, who would have thought? Scopely, you got the answer. This community, the community is telling you what they want and what they need. All right. We're going to look at Clement here. We're going to look at Clement Gallagher. Do you see this? Yeah, man. So he obviously feels really strongly about this. There's some excellent gems here. Excellent gems. Let's investigate, man. We're gonna have to break it. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Woo. All right. We obviously can't address all that in one shot. Good night. But he feels something. We touched the nerve. He feels something. Okay. We're talking about the point about endgame Thanos, right? It's cheesy. He says he feels that it's cheap. So he's given a complaint, but he's also given a solution. What's the solution? He's saying, hey, there's other characters. Ghost Rider Robbie can be a menace. Iceman, if he had actual damage, could do an annoying ping if you can't clear the slow. Spider-Man 2099, Weaver. They're annoying. If you're a newer player and you haven't looked at their kit, it's a problem. Wakanda is nasty with modern stats. Now, he's bringing out a very interesting point. On the defensive side, on the Scopely side, right? I got my guys over here. You're just fighting against whatever Scopely's going to put over there. If you just juice them up, you can bring back some characters. We won't have them juiced like that. But you can certainly use it and lean into some of that stuff to help us think in Theorycraft. Oh man, I forgot that this guy could do that. I got to come up with a way to stop it, right? He said instead we just get similar nodes. There's a lot of stuff you could do with the nodes. Some of it could be funny. You could lean into the Marvel lore. Just tell the players what they're getting into, right? So if you just make a blanket statement that there's these, in my mind, so this is what we're starting to think about here. We're just taking what people have said. In my mind, you could have like this retaliation node or something like that, retaliation event that they just pop up kind of randomly when you figure some of this stuff out. It just symbolizes a nihilist or whoever the big bad is striking back. This is my team that I assembled to take over your base, right? You have to stop them. He says, take, for example, a node with Miss Marvel, Spider-Man Miles, Nova Braun, Vivian Vision, Ironheart, Moon Girl, Cyclops, Wasp, Falcon. Why is he bringing that? Because they're part of the Champions team in various times in Marvel Comics. You could lean into that lore. The people that are familiar with the comics, they're going to get some nostalgia from that. They're going to talk about it. People that don't know about it, it's fine. It's just an extra team to get. Said you need to make them work together, so throw a pact on this node and says that every character are treated as champions, absolute A-Force, Bionic Avengers, yada, yada. And then you're going to turn their stats up. So you got Cyclops pinging, right? Vivian doing some damage. Notice this. This is a crucial statement right here. This might be the most important thing. This guy right here, I'm just being honest with you. This guy right here may have stumbled on the key point, the biggest thing you could do, right? You would have Cyclops, pinging, When you attack, Vivian doing healing each time. Sam or Miss Marvel generated energy. Ironheart providing defense up on spawn. Patriot flips debuffs. And there's an infinite similar lineup you can do. Guardians of the Multiverse, right? You got Kahori, Heartless Strange, Captain Carter. Spirit of Vengeance is not my jam, but hey, you got Mephisto. You got tons of Ghost Riders you could use in Helverine. The new Fantastic Four, right? This is a comic book look right here. Wolverine, Spider-Man, Ghost Rider, Hulk, Franklin. Add that synergy between unrelated characters to make the node more annoying. He says it's fine as long as you know that it's going to happen. Don't change the speed stat, right? Don't change the speed. Don't have guys drop in with pre-made speed bar or change the speed to make it happen. Here's the golden nugget that I think that he put in. This is huge. Again, Sculptor, you can make your own teams on these nodes. You know the synergies. There's over 300 characters in the game. There's a lot of synergies going on. What if you just made stuff and leaned into some of those synergies? Again, you got Annihilus. He's like, the champions, you call yourselves the champions. Well, I've scoured the multiverse, and I'm going to show you some of the best champion teams. And you can just make some up. Use some of those characters. And on your side, right, you can just say that champions count as A-Force and Bionic Avengers and X-Men so that they're right on your side. It's not on our side. So that their passives and stuff work together. And you can come up with some crazy stuff. We call that mean teams, right? So again, when I was playing HeroClix and whatnot, people would just come up with strategies and synergies, some really weird interactions, some mean teams. Teams that would perma-slow you. Teams that would just cause individuals to just take retaliatory damage. Just built on some of the craziest mechanics in the game. You can lean into that. You can lean into that. Right? So what if you had a Asgardian team? And here, you have an Asgardian team. You have Odin. He has some stuff. And you have other Asgardians that buff other Asgardians. But it's not cost effective to bring them in because they're old. But they're only old in our roster. Chewie's weighing in. My doggy's weighing in. He's weighing in on the subject. They're only old with regards to our roster. You can just turn them all the way up. Lean into some of that synergy. You can have 10 people on your side of the field with more that can drop. What if you fought a crazy, tricked out Asgardian team leaning into some of those weird synergies? What about symbiotes? Gore and Null are more recent symbiotes, and there's some crazy passives you could lean into from back in the day when you invented that were close to being broken back then, and you didn't know that you were going to have a Null and a Gore. Lean into that. Lean into that. You know what else would be cool? You know what else would be cool? Community. This is a great opportunity. Great opportunity. Put some teams in the chat. We're going to do another video on this. We're going to dig deep ourselves. Put some teams in the chat. They don't have to be 5-person teams. You can list 10 characters, 15 characters. I don't know what the limit is that can drop on a node. 20 characters. Put together some mean teams. And you know what you could do, Scopely? You could have a competition. Since characters keep coming out, right? Characters keep coming out every like 6 months. You could have a competition. The community could be doing your work for you. Have a competition. You give the winner or the top 3, and you know you're going to keep all the ideas. But maybe you make a winner. Maybe you give them some in-game stuff. Maybe you let them pick the name of this team or the name of this this grouping of nodes. And it's, you know, the bad guys retaliating. Haha, I came up with my army to fight against Strike. Use it. So we're going to do that in the chat. Put that in the comments below. Put teams that you have. Hit me up in Discord, right? I got my Discord at the bottom as always. Brainstorm. Put it in the YouTube community page. Something. This could be amazing. This dude, I'm telling you, man, I think this guy right here just hit it on the head. He hit it out of the park. That's what we need. More of that. And you can build it. You can build it. Man. I think it's gold. I think there's a gold mine right there. I think there's a gold mine. Let's continue. Content itself, it just vanishes, right? Tower mode goes away. Danger room. We got it once. It was a brimstone. How come there was no danger room themed around the Winter Guard or the champions? He's asking for this. Danger room is content that could be weekly. It could be bi-weekly. You could throw that wider tag between the two teams or an overarching like the X-Men. Do you remember that? We had an X-Men danger room. You could do that. Bring some of that stuff back. Avengers, Cabal, Horsemen of the Apocalypse, and then use some horsemen from different eras in the comics. Again, like he said, like we just talked about, and this is where I got the idea from, the Illuminati, symbiotes, the potential is there. Right? The potential is there. Grab it. Grab hold. We're not going to break all of it down, but if we go to the end here, he does indeed give you the main points. Two big problems. One of them is the game is built around specific teams, which to a degree has to happen. You need the new teams. They need to be valuable. I get that. But as the teams get older, they just kind of get sucky. Right? But there's 300 characters. There's tons of Spider-Man in the game. Got a couple different types of Captain Americas. Lean into it. Lean into it. Make what's old new again in some way, shape, or form. They don't have to be, right? Those old characters don't have to be made meta. But if we could figure out a way we could use them again, mix them and match them with the newer characters, do some theory crafting, that's going to go a long way. It's going to go a long way. One more comment here by Men's Grooming Advice. So get your grooming on. Get your groom on. Men's Grooming Advice. He said, I always thought of Marvel Strike Force as a hero collector. Unlocking characters, even the ones I've never heard of. Right? There's people that various engagement within the lore. But getting the characters, even if he doesn't know who they are, he said it's a big incentive, right? He said it's a big incentive. But with the economy being as it is, the unlocks are pointless. He can't use the characters. He wishes there was more flexibility for theory crafting and use all these characters. So once again, we have somebody here that's saying, hey, there's a lot of characters here. I'd like to be able to use them. Maybe you can pull in older characters to fill a spot. It's simply not possible. The content demands the exact teams and character. If you want to run this raid at a higher level, you got to use that team. If you don't have them at a high enough level, spend on it or you're going to skip the team. So that's his thoughts there. But once again, we have impetus to use more of the roster. And I know that you got to have a reason to build the newest teams. I know that. I understand that. I get it. And that costs money. And that's how we want people to spend that money. 100% understand. So is there a way that can be made worth it? Can you, if we're going to pigeonhole certain stuff, pigeonhole for rewards, right? Pigeonhole for rewards. The Daring Warriors are coming out. There's some type of easy, medium, and hard. Rewards scale accordingly. And if you just want to pigeonhole that team, obviously they're going to be good in Crucible. They're going to be good in Battle World. We can't wait to use them. But hey, lean into it. Boom, they're good in Crucible. Giant Crucible rewards for this particular season. Turn up the difficulty. Bang, hey, not only are we going after the Maestro, but you can get the top alliances, get, boom, this thing for building up the Daring Warriors. And we have a pathway, easy, medium, and hard, as you use your Daring Warriors, encouraging you to build them up. You get more rewards if you can get past the easy, if you can get past the medium. Get into the hard, you get more rewards. And at the same time, using some of these other ideas that people had to make content where we can use more of our roster. This is what the people are asking for. Keep the comments coming. This is the point. This is what I love about the Marvel Strike Force community. This is the part right here. I'm not want to talk to the crybabies. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear what the whiners have to say, but people who enjoy, who are fighting for their hobby, they're saying, hey man, I would put some more money down. I will spend more time in the game. This is the type of thing I want to engage. They're giving you the keys to the kingdom, Scopely. Go ahead and use it. We wish we had the golden age back, but since you know what the golden ages are, the old school, we're kicking it old school, right? You can bring that back again.